Hey guys, tonight we drift into the dim-lit hallway of a house that isn't as cozy as it once was. You're standing in your slippers, still holding your lukewarm tea when the walls vibrate with your daughter-in-law's scream, "Get out! We want our space!" Not exactly a lullaby, huh? Her voice echoes off the baby monitor and knocks the peace straight out of the room. You flinch even though this isn't the first time. Not by a long shot. Her words slam into you harder than that leaky attic door you always mean to fix. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. Maybe you're curled up in Seattle rain or stuck under a ceiling fan in Florida heat. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand there, stunned. Your son doesn't say a word. He just looks down at his phone like TikTok is more pressing than his mother being told to pack up and vanish. You taste iron in your mouth. Rage, maybe, or just your cracked lip from this dry winter air. The house feels colder than it should. You helped buy this place. You signed the papers. But now you're being treated like a squatter in a story that historians might one day compare to ancient Roman family feuds, like those tragic multi-generational villas in Herculaneum, where resentment was buried just beneath the mosaic floors. And even now, scholars argue whether it was love or property that tore those families apart. You're about to make a decision they'll still be whispering about in 20 years. You shuffle back into your room, the one that used to be the home office before your knees started arguing with stairs. You close the door gently, as if shutting it any harder might confirm just how unwanted you really are. You sit down on the edge of the bed. The same bed where your grandkid once crawled in during a thunderstorm whispering, "Grandma, can I sleep here?" Now that same child has a sound machine and a "No grandparents allowed" sign made out of glitter glue. Your phone buzzes on the nightstand. A text from your best friend, Joan. Just a heart emoji. She knows. She warned you months ago about giving too much. "They'll take the house and kick you to the curb," she said between sips of wine and bites of store-bought tiramisu. You didn't believe her then. After all, you raised your son right, didn't you? You glance around your room. None of the furniture is yours. The paintings on the wall, generic abstract swirls, might as well be emotional graffiti, saying, "You don't belong." Even Cleopatra, they say, had her own quarters when she stayed at Caesar's villa. And you? You just have a room without locks. Historians still argue whether Cleopatra manipulated the Romans or was just playing a longer game for Egypt. But what's not up for debate is this. She didn't stay where she wasn't welcome. And that realization hits you like a bolt from the stormy Greek tragedies you once taught in college. Maybe it's time to stop being the background character in someone else's saga. Maybe it's time to become your own inconvenient plot twist. The next morning, you wake up with your spine stiff, but your mind sharper than it's been in months. The coffee machine is already dripping when you shuffle into the kitchen in your robe. Your daughter-in-law, hair in a high bun, stirs almond milk into her mug and doesn't even glance up. She's humming something, a pop song that somehow makes your eye twitch. You clear your throat. "Morning." She offers a flat, Once, she called you Mom. Back when she and your son moved in temporarily, after he lost that software job, and she was 6 months pregnant with the baby, who now slams doors and calls you extra. You paid off 2 months of their mortgage back then, just to help, just until they got on their feet. The irony? That mortgage is still under your name. Oh yes, your name is the first line on the deed. But lately, you felt more like an Airbnb guest overstaying your welcome. You sit at the breakfast nook, the same one where you once read Little Women aloud. Beth dying still makes your throat tighten. "She just wanted to be wanted," you mutter under your breath. Your DIL doesn't respond. She's already scrolling, her nails clacking against her screen like the tap-tap of a gavel in a courtroom where you've already been sentenced. Quirk of the day? In 18th century Paris, breakfast was often just a shot of brandy and a prayer. And yet somehow, you feel less fortified than a powdered wig noble about to be guillotined. Historians still debate whether Marie Antoinette ever actually said, "Let them eat cake." But you're pretty sure if your DIL were in her shoes, she'd say, "Let her find a nursing home." You sip your coffee. No sugar, No cream, just bitter. Like the truth. You shuffle back to your room. Well, what used to be your room. The walls are now painted a sterile gray, your floral curtains replaced with blackout blinds because they help the baby nap. Your sewing machine is boxed in the garage. The family photos once lining the hallway? Gone. Replaced by abstract prints that scream, minimalist influencer with too much time and a Pinterest account. You run your fingers along the dresser you've owned since the Carter administration, and it hits you like a sucker punch. This house used to feel warm. Now, it echoes like a museum after hours. You sit on the edge of the bed and glance at the mirror. Your reflection stares back, eyes a little tired, but sharp. A look your late husband once called steel under silk. You remember reading about Eleanor of Aquitaine, queen of both France and England, who was imprisoned by her own husband for supporting her rebellious sons. Historians still argue whether she was a power-hungry manipulator or just a woman too smart for her time. Either way, she didn't go quietly. Neither will you. It starts with a simple call to your realtor. You whisper into the phone like you're planning a heist. "Hi, Dan. I'm thinking of selling a property." "Yes, I'm on the title." No, they don't know yet. You feel it. A small, delicious thrill. Like hiding a birthday cake you baked just for yourself. Random tidbit? The oldest real estate transaction, recorded on papyrus, dates back over 4,000 years in ancient Egypt. Someone traded a plot of land for beer and cloth. You wonder what your daughter-in-law would say if you asked her to move out for a couple bolts of linen. Dan promises to pull up comps. You hang up. And smile. You start your morning with a cup of coffee, extra strong, because subtlety is officially off the menu. The scent alone is enough to transport you to the Parisian cafe you visited on your honeymoon, where the waiter judged you for ordering milk. That same mug, chipped at the rim, still rests in your hand. Your fingers trace the tiny crack, like a roadmap of resilience. Downstairs, you hear the unmistakable clatter of baby toys. You brace for your daughter-in-law's voice. And, like clockwork, there it is, barking orders about organic snacks and screen time limits, as if she's leading a TED Talk on modern motherhood. You don't speak. You just sip. Historians still argue whether Cleopatra was truly beloved or merely feared. But what's undeniable is that she wielded her intelligence like a sword. Much like you, when you start quietly gathering the documents, the title deed, the utility bills still under your name, that little note from the bank confirming you're the sole mortgage holder. Quirky fact for today: in medieval times, houses were sometimes marked with protective symbols called witch marks to ward off bad energy and uninvited spirits. You're starting to think you should carve a few into the walls yourself. Maybe something to ward off entitlement. You call Dan again. He says the market's hot. Offers are flying in like seagulls on a sandwich. You nod, pacing slowly in your slippers, the ones with the tiny pink bows that somehow survived all these modern upgrades. "List it," you say. Calm, steady, no shaking hands, no second guessing. You are a woman with a plan and a title deed. And outside the window, the world spins on as usual, blissfully unaware that a storm is quietly brewing under this carefully curated roof. Your daughter-in-law's voice carries from the kitchen, sharp, nasal, a little too performative. Something about how boomer habits are stifling their growth. You suppress a chuckle. The only thing you're stifling is the urge to toss your oatmeal in her general direction. But no, you just smile and stir. You're past the point of dramatics. This isn't a soap opera. It's chess. You think about Marie Antoinette, not the cake quote, the real woman. Historians still argue whether she was truly ignorant of the people's suffering or just trapped by her gilded upbringing. Either way, her fall came swiftly once the crowd turned. Just like that, the crown tilted. And today, your own crown, an invisible one, heavy with memories and mortgages, is tilting forward, not from shame, but from the weight of decision. You text Dan back, thumbs steady. "Showings can begin next week. I'll be out of town." He replies with a thumbs up and a champagne emoji. You snort. Realtors and their emojis. Outside, your son is working on the lawn again. His third attempt at installing solar lights, you remember him at age 9, sobbing over a broken Lego spaceship. And now, here he is, trying to light a path that you own, on land that belongs to your signature. Quirky tidbit? In 19th century America, houses were sometimes sold with the furniture, livestock, and even the servants included, all in one bundled deal. You wonder what Zillow would do with that now. 4BR/3BA plus mildly rude daughter-in-law. The realtor's paperwork arrives in your inbox. You glance at the documents like an old friend returning from war, battered but loyal. And somewhere deep inside, you feel the first flutter of freedom. It doesn't feel like revenge. It feels like a sunrise. You step out onto the porch with your tea, steam curling into the spring air. It's quiet, almost too quiet. A kind of eerie, temporary peace that usually comes right before something breaks. In this case, it's probably going to be someone's ego. Your daughter-in-law storms past you on the way to her car, muttering about entitlement and invasion of privacy. You sip your tea. It tastes like triumph. While she speeds off, you start mentally rearranging your exit plan. It's not as dramatic as Caesar crossing the Rubicon, but you've read enough to know when the die is cast. Historians still argue whether Caesar's declaration of alea iacta est was bravado or desperation, but you get it now. Sometimes it's both. You've decided to spend a week at your sister's house. Quiet, seaside, no screaming about dish towels or pantry labeling systems. She always says her guest room smells like lavender and second chances. You could use both. You begin packing light, skipping the kitchenware. You won't be needing that anymore. There's a strange satisfaction in folding the good towels with military precision, like those monks who sand mandalas for weeks just to brush them away. It's the practice, not the permanence. Also, did you know Queen Elizabeth I used to refuse to be seen without her full makeup, even on her deathbed? Historians think it was part vanity, part performance. You understand, you're preparing for your own curtain call in this house, and you want to leave on your own terms, fully powdered and perfectly packed. Dan confirms the first showing is scheduled. The sign goes up tomorrow. You wonder how long it'll take for your son and his wife to notice. Probably around the same time someone knocks and asks for a tour of their cozy suburban opportunity. And you'll be miles away, watching the sunset. You're halfway to your sister's house when your phone lights up with a flurry of texts. Predictable. Your son's name pops up first, a string of frantic emojis and misspelled demands. He's just discovered the for sale sign on the lawn. You smile and let it ring out like a morning bell in a sleepy monastery. Let the awakening begin, he calls next. Then, again, and again. You let the phone buzz against your hip like a bee trapped in a jar. Funny how silence used to be your enemy. Now it's your shield. You remember reading that Napoleon once refused to open letters for days if he suspected they were full of nonsense. Most problems resolve themselves, he claimed. Historians still argue whether it was strategic genius or just world-class pettiness. Either way, it's working for you. You finally respond with one sentence. You wanted space, so I'm giving it to you. No emojis, no explanation. Just enough ambiguity to light a fire under their entitled feet. Meanwhile, Dan the realtor is a marvel of calm professionalism. He handles the first open house like he's running a royal estate sale. You ask him to set the thermostat to a cozy 72 and put out cookies. Presentation matters. Marie Antoinette may never have said let them eat cake, but perception shapes history, and you're crafting a legacy. That evening, you watch the sunset from your sister's wraparound porch, a gentle breeze ruffling your hair like a sigh from the sea. You sip lemonade and muse over the absurdity of it all. The house they thought they owned, the one they screamed you out of, is now just a listing on Zillow. And you're the one holding the deed, the key, and the final word. The first offer comes in quicker than expected. Dan calls you, excitement tucked just behind his polite tone. Full asking price, clean terms, and a flexible closing date. They fell in love with the light in the kitchen, he says. Of course they did. You always knew how to chase light. Your daughter-in-law hated that window, said it made the tile look old. But history, like taste, has a way of flipping the script. You give the green light. By noon, your son is on your voicemail again, his voice teetering between apology and outrage. He says he didn't mean it. She was just emotional. He says you're being irrational. You almost laugh. Isn't it funny how people cling to rationality only after their comfort zone is ripped out like a rug? You remember the Roman concept of damnatio memoria, erasing someone from history like they never existed. Scholars still debate whether it truly worked, or whether trying to erase someone made them live louder in infamy. You're not erasing your son, but you are rewriting your chapter. You send a final group text. House will be sold in 30 days. Please collect anything you'd like from the garage by Friday. No drama. No debate. Just facts. Like announcing the end of a museum exhibit. Please exit through the gift shop. The next day, Dan hosts a second open house, and 3 more offers roll in. Your neighbors peek over the fence, wide-eyed and whispery. Your son doesn't show up to collect anything, but your daughter-in-law does. Arms crossed, sunglasses on, like she's shielding herself from your clarity. You nod, hold the door, say nothing. She leaves with a box of Christmas lights, a chipped mug, and the exact silence she once screamed at you for breaking. The house feels lighter after the final box is taken out. You wander through empty rooms, each echo a reminder of battles past and the strange relief that comes with endings. The garden outside sways in the evening breeze, whispering stories older than your family's quarrels, like how the English nobility once used yew trees to mark sacred boundaries, a practice historians still argue held both spiritual and practical meaning. Your phone buzzes with a message from Dan. Closing scheduled next week. You're ready for the next chapter. You stare at it, feeling an odd mix of grief and freedom. Selling this house wasn't just about property. It was about reclaiming your peace. You pause by the kitchen window, imagining the sunlight stretching across the floor, just like that Roman fresco you read about recently, preserved for centuries beneath layers of plaster. The fragility and resilience of history, you think, aren't so different from family. Your daughter-in-law's shout, "Get out, we want our space," still rings faintly in your ears, but now it feels distant, like a storm that has passed. The land will belong to new owners, new memories, and you will carry the lessons forward. As you lock the door one last time, you remember the ancient Japanese art of kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold, turning flaws into beauty. Maybe your family, fractured though it is, can be mended too. You breathe deeply, the cool night air filling your lungs, and let the silence settle. Tomorrow, a fresh start waits.